We made this.
Welcome to the Starlight Ballroom. Hey!
Hello and welcome to Shipwrecked and Comatose, the podcast about Red Dwarf here on the We Made This podcast network. We are 3 episodes in of Series 4, which means we're looking at Series 4. That's how it works.
Makes sense.
My name's Mark and I am your regular host, and alongside me as always is Kurt North. Hello, Kurt.
Hello. Help me. My web browser's disappeared. Hello, I'm here.
We've also got Colin, who's joining us for the next 2 episodes. Hello, Colin.
You all right?
Yeah, I'm not doing too bad. I'm on a podcast talking at Red Dwarf.
You're always on a bloody podcast. You never know off them.
Well, true, but I enjoy them. They cheer me up in this bleak, plagued world.
It'd be fucking weird if you didn't enjoy them.
Well, that's true.
In the last 48 hours, I've either been editing or recording, and over the course of it, it's been 7 episodes. There's been 7 episodes in the last 48 hours I've been
I am a mere
with.
amateur to you when it comes to the amount of hours. I did record one earlier today, but still, that's 2 in a day as opposed to 10 like you.
I went to edit one this morning. I did hours. I did a Red Dwarf one, and then the second one, I thought, I'll do this. It's a Millennium one. I looked at the running time. We had recorded for 2 hours, and that was one episode.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, that's 4 hours work. But never mind.
You say that, but these Red Dwarf ones, I don't think any of them have been shorter than 60 minutes. And when you think it's a 26-minute episode and we're talking for longer than the episode itself, are we being a little self-indulgent?
Well, it's quantity, not quality, isn't it? Oh, no, wait. That's the wrong way around.
It's definitely, I don't know if anyone's gathered, but towards the back end of the guests' run, we may be getting a bit tired because behind the scenes, we're actually recording 2 in a row. And often it's 4 hours plus.
Oh, yeah. We basically do a whole night of Red Dwarf for each guest host. So, yeah, but we could be finishing the next episode by midnight or something like that. And I don't care. I've got nothing on. Fucking lockdown, innit?
I'll be woken up at 6 o'clock by a crazy 4-year-old, but yeah, it's fine.
Should we stop blithering and talk about the episode then?
Could we better? That's a good idea.
Yeah. All right, let's get on it. Okay, so Justice, Series 4, Episode 3. We open in the Med Bay, and Crichton is checking on Lister, who has space mumps. And first things first, just a little touch of the red cross on Crichton's chest.
Yes. Florence Nightingale.
Just made me so happy that they'd bothered to do that.
And it just looks like a sticker as well.
Yeah, it's not a video image either. It's just literally just a Red Cross sticker.
Yeah.
But there's a really weird bit in the exact first second of the scene that there's a baseball glove right in the front of the script, in just in the front of the shot by Lister. And I was sitting there thinking, why has he got a baseball glove? Is he going to play with it or anything? No, there's no reason for it there because it's not referred to. It hasn't been cut. It's not in any of the deleted scenes. There's just a random baseball glove there for absolutely no reason, which is a bit weird with him being
Isn't
English.
Lister into something like, what was it called? The sport?
0G football.
Oh, it's football, not baseball.
Yeah, I know about as much about sport as you, Mark. So, you know.
But the baseball bat was prevalent in previous episodes.
That is a fair point. Yes. Baseball bat in the previous series.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I think it might have been in the med unit when he was like, not when he's swinging it around, but he had it in the med unit, didn't he?
It could be a callback to that. Because at first I was wondering if it was his hat, because he picks his hat up from a similar location later on. But I rewound it back and it's definitely a baseball glove.
Is that when he goes on the? Is that when he's on the cop?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Space Mumps is horrible. I've had it a few times.
Have you?
Yeah. Got better.
Good. Well, Lister is getting better, and his breakfast is hot lager with croutons. Lovely. And he's in a bit of a grump because Rimmer and the cat haven't been to visit him. And so, as prosthetics go for Space Mumps, it's fucking ace.
Yeah. This is, if we have quotable or visual dwarf as growing up or remembering, this entire run through the episode of it exploding and everything else, including this bit, is just memorable.
Very much so.
It's just so vividly Red Dwarf. It's just amazing. It's interesting that we've got this is the second kind of space virus sort of thing that we've had.
I think the fact that there's lots and lots of viruses in space does make sense. That it's not going to be the same virus that evolves on Jupiter, as it'll be different flu or different coronavirus.
Yeah. It depends, because the virus needs something to live on.
Yeah.
And it's not going to survive in a vacuum.
And there's no aliens.
So...
Ooh.
But then there's so many scientific complete inaccuracies in Red Dwarf. It's just funny. We don't care.
Good point. Well made. Let's move on. So Rimmer has been on a rambling holiday in the diesel decks and is going to show Lister the slides. And the cat is preoccupied with the recently found escape pod. Whoops. Naughty Crichton. Shouldn't have told him that. I do love Crichton's fuck-ups. They're just such a joy.
He's a bit like, I know we don't mention Harry Potter much because of the horrible transphobic hag witch that wrote it, but it's kind of like Hagrid with it. I shouldn't have said that kind of thing.
Yeah,
he does that a fair bit. So I wonder if Crichton was maybe a bit of an influence.
Well,
perhaps.
I think she'd started to write the books by this point, because isn't Harry Potter set? Doesn't he go to school in about 1991, 92?
He does, but the books didn't come out until 97, so I don't think she was writing it that long before 97.
Right, okay, fair enough.
I would imagine about 94, 95 maybe.
But you're absolutely right, she is a transphobic hag witch.
Exactly.
I think she's a cunt.
Yeah.
I've been lucky enough not to read or watch any of them.
I very much like them, but, the creator is a bellend.
She is. She is. Anyway.
That was Harry Potter hour.
Yes, quite. Funnily enough, no Harry Potter podcast coming to the We Made This Podcast Network. Fuck off. The pod, and there's a survivor, and it's a woman. And Lister's like, what the fuck? I'm going on the pole, and heads out despite his hideous, misfigured head illness.
It's like the way his hair's all just sort of stuck to the top of it.
It's wonderful. Those prosthetics.
They did a really good job.
They really did.
You've got the bit where Rimmer's been loading slides for 24 hours for his holiday photos to the diesel deck as well. Totally reminds me of the only proper decent holiday I've ever been on that wasn't just to a festival as an adult was when me and my wife went on our honeymoon to America, and we have on quite a few occasions sat there with people going through the photo album, telling all the stories from it, and I think it's hilarious. I think people do, but you've always got that thing in the back of your mind going, am I being Rimmer doing the really boring ass slides for 24 hours?
So my dad went through this stage of basically not having a holiday when he went on holiday and filming fucking everything. And when he got home, it was like, son, do you want to come and watch the videos? I'm washing my hair. Any fucking excuse. I was like, I've got space mumps. Anything to not see my dad's fucking videos. Because it wasn't just the fact that it was videos. He'd already done the commentary. He was talking behind the camera saying, and this is the bollocks, and this is the other bollocks, and this is the fucking hell, you're already bored. And then he'd do commentary on his own commentary. Oh, my dad is Rimmer.
I was, there is, I think, I'm not quite sure when this was. I think it was Rill, so I think there's a Red Dwarf connection.
Yeah.
When I went on holiday and we had one of the camcorders, and it was me being my, extroverted self, wanting to be in front of the camera. Oh yes, got in front of the camera, fantastic. And we went to a slate mine, and I have been slated ever since, right? Because what I'd said in the thing, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'm here. My friend at the time, Dave, said, right, rolling. Okay. Yeah, so we're here at the slate mine. There's a lot of slate here.
Wow.
They obviously haven't done enough mining.
And then I'm just on another note. It is my 2 weeks holiday, and I've spent the entire week podcasting. So I think that in itself is a bit, and I'm going to show people that. So
yeah, you've been taking photos the entire time of you podcasting.
yeah, that's just to go in the show notes now. Just pictures of me at various different moments.
Incidentally, if you look closely at the slides, Rimmer's holiday was clearly to the exact same location that Justice World is.
Yeah.
Colin! Don't ruin it. All right, anyway.
Sunbury Pump House.
Yes.
I'm sorry?
We'll get to that in a bit.
Okay. Well, they're in the quarters, and Lister asks Crichton who she was, and it was Barbara Bellini. That's a good name. And Lister is gutted because he looks like a watermelon head. And the cat comes in and starts giving him some serious sass, which is funny as fuck. And he's cross with everyone for not visiting, and they kind of start going back and forth with insults about Cat's lack of experience with women, and Lister looking like he's got a gigantic head face. And because they're arguing over who's going to get chosen by Barbara Bellini. And Rimmer joins in with the mockery, and
Cat makes a comment about an Iranian Jerd, which made me think, is that like some kind of weird space creature, like a space weevil or something? So I looked it up, and it's an actual thing. It is it's a bit like a gerbil. But it didn't say anything on Wikipedia about how many pelvic thrusts it can do in a minute.
good grief.
I just want to point out that I don't know who wrote the transcript, or if it's off the script, or if it's not, and it's just a comment, because whoever did this transcript that I'm reading or have had a look at, either felt a little bit out of like, oh, don't want to say that, or they thought, or they just didn't realise, it was originally in the script, but it was when it said the fact that Cat could make a man wet, and they put a man sweat.
Censorship.
Well,
So I thought, is it just like someone who's innocent that's just like heard what they thought they heard? Is it someone who's has it been originally in the script and Cat changed it, or is it just a mishearing?
It is one of the ruder Red Dwarf jokes, actually, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
both work, you know.
Yeah.
Both work, yeah, both work.
Danny John Jules can make me wet or sweat at the end of the day. He's an attractive man. Moving on.
He's not very experienced at this point.
No,
though.
he's not. But, he's...
Just don't tell him you haven't watched Maid Marian and Marian.
I have watched it. I just don't love it. You're obsessed.
Fucking heathen.
So there is a little bit of a spanner in the works. The Cat has started the defrostation process, despite the fact that it could be Barbara Bellini, or it could be the simulant that murdered her, because they've looked at the black box and it's not really sure. It doesn't give them a conclusion over who it is.
Is this the first mention of a simulant? I think it is. And they obviously come back a lot later on.
Yeah.
I think this is the first time the word simulant is ever said.
Yeah, I think it is.
There's definitely not been one that's appeared before, but I don't even think they've been mentioned before.
The process is irreversible, and so it's going to happen. And Rimmer, being Rimmer, says that for safety they should jettison it in case it is the simulant. Obviously, that's not really going to happen because that's potentially murder. But they do find that they can get to the prison facility where they were headed.
Okay, I know I'm jumping the gun a little bit here, but just from why you said that. So that's basically murder. He effectively wants to murder someone in the back as well later. Yep. He's got quite a psychotic mind in this episode, doesn't he? Really?
Is it murder if it's the simulant because it's not human? It's a 50-50 chance of murder.
Yeah, at the moment it is.
So it's either mur or duh.
Schrodinger's murder. At the moment, they're both alive, aren't they? So it is murder.
Yeah.
Philosophically, it is because they're both alive at the moment.
True.
Yes. Schrodinger's prisoner.
So they get in Starbug, and Lister and Kat are in the cockpit, and Kat is still picking on him. And
it's because his head's in the way of the mirror.
Exactly that. And in the back, Crichton is being shown the holiday slides, and his circuits have melted.
His face is brilliant.
It's wonderful. I love Robert Llewellyn. Just how do you have such an expressive face when it's covered in all that shit?
Rubber glued all over it. Yeah, he's just fantastic.
I love the build up on the front of the ship as well because it's warmer in the front. It's like it helps the gunge.
Yeah.
It's just like pulling that elastic band back just a little bit.
Well, indeed, it goes. There's a revolting splat noise off camera.
Did you have the subtitles on?
No.
The subtitles for that bit say, soggy explosion.
Oh, someone who did those subtitles clearly likes Red Dwarf. That wasn't just a gig for them. They were like, fuck yeah, I get to subtitle Red Dwarf.
Yeah.
And it's KY jelly, apparently, as well. Actual stuff.
And Piccalilli, it looks like.
and so his head bursts, and Kat and Lister are both covered in gunge. And here we go with quotable dwarf. I don't want to live.
Did you catch Holly's expression?
Yes. Yeah.
Holly's expression in that scene, it's really subtle, but it's fucking hilarious. Because she's actually out of focus.
Yeah.
So you have to really look to see it. But yeah, her Hattie Hayridge's expression in that particular scene is...
Considering you've just got a face, Hattie Hayridge is brilliant so frequently.
Yeah,
absolutely. But whenever something happens that is unpleasant, and I know someone likes Red Dwarf, I'll just I'll bring out the I don't want to live because it's just so wonderful. It just says everything you want to say.
I even like the my God,
his head burst. It does look like Piccalilli though, Colin. How did you find out it was KY jelly?
In a book I've got.
101 uses for KY jelly?
I will quote the book. It is it's called Stasis Leaked Complete by Jane Killick.
Sounds like a very useful book for this particular podcast.
It is, and I might have used it in the past as well, so I want to thank Jane Killick.
Welcome to Justice World. And they need to register because they're not guards so that they can walk around the facility. But Welcome to Justice World is done over a very, very cool model.
It's a bit Deep Space Nine-y, isn't it?
It's a bit bloody brilliant. But yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah.
But the fact that they've got the balancing scales as a thing, I think is a wonderful little touch.
Yeah. Which I didn't notice until about my third watch of it.
Right, okay. Yeah, it is a lovely touch. And yeah, I can see the Deep Space Nine kind of equivalent. Yeah, definitely.
It's better, obviously, because that's Star Trek. So.
It is a gorgeous model. And you think, again, why did they ever want to replace that with anything else?
Yeah. I don't know if... I've not seen the remastered version for this, so I don't know if they did or not. but it wouldn't surprise me because they replaced that brilliant chase in the previous series. But yeah, the voice of the Justice World judge dude is James Smiley, who's
well, I actually thought it was David Bowie, because it sounds at one point when they actually get to Justice World, it sounds like David Bowie.
He's got a bit of that in there, yeah. But he was in the original 70s version of the Tomorrow People, and he was in Prisoner Cell Block H, were his two main things that he's been in. But I haven't seen either of them.
I think I might have seen the Tomorrow People a long time ago. It might have been the remake.
I've seen the 90s remake.
I've got a vague recollection of seeing Prisoner Cell Block H, actually, but more of a remembrance of seeing Oz. You ever see Oz?
Oz was great.
Late night telly, Channel 4. Used to be like on at midnight.
So anyway, Quig shows up.
Oh, yeah, right. They land in Justice World, and they're given escort boots. There's even holographic escort boots for Rimmer, but unfortunately, there isn't one with a Cuban heel for the cat.
I love the way that's just sort of hand-waved away, because Rimmer's like, but I can't wear these, I'm a hologram. And Justice World just goes, that has been accounted for. No explanation at all, it's just fucking wear them. Put them on.
I guess I just assumed that they were holographic equivalents of the boots.
Well, they did have to say, first of all, before they went down there, what the makeup of the crew was. So,
yeah,
obviously you would have known that. 2 humanoid, 1 mechanoid, and hologram.
True. The boots walk them to a mind probe, which looks for evidence of criminal activity. And Lister is a little bit worried. Crichton says he'll be fine because his lie mode is on point, which I thought was brilliant. Did you ever go scrumping?
Well,
for cars.
And definitely not for cars. I love that quote. That's such a brilliant phrase. Yeah, but we used to go scrumping for cars. It's just utterly genius.
So we're all like very late Gen X, early millennial, and I don't think that scrumping was still a thing even for us, really. Who had an orchard nearby to go and nick apples from?
Well, there were a few around. I grew up in a village, and we were, it was countryside where we used to hang out, and there were people's gardens with apple trees, but I think they were mostly crab apples, so they weren't ones we want to eat. They were just ones that we used to kick around.
I mean, my auntie had an apple tree in her back garden, up in your world, Mark. But that's not scrumping because it's in the back of her garden.
Can I have an apple? Yes, that's not scrumping.
yeah, go and get it from the back garden. So okay, no problem.
So anyway, the probe does its thing. Crichton is fine. Cat is also fine. Lister is also granted clearance despite some minor discrepancies. Rimmer is guilty of 1,167 second-degree murders and is given 9,328 years in prison.
Did you notice that the crew members have increased?
I was about to say 1,167 is about 1,000 more than the last time they said.
Yep. It was because the books had come out since then, and they'd upped it when they wrote the books. And Rob Grant and Doug Naylor wanted to put it a little bit, even though the books are an alternate timeline, they wanted to sort of retcon a few things and have them more in line with what had happened in the books. So that's why they changed that figure, because it is a bit more. Well, for a ship the size it is, it's a little bit more realistic that they'd have that many
I think
people on
we've
there.
already discussed how the low crew figures, and 1,167 is low for a 5-mile ship, was because it was a mining ship, and the vast majority of it would have its cargo. But I hadn't clocked that it was because of the books. I just thought it was a mistake that they'd forgotten what they'd written.
Yeah, no, it was deliberate.
Well, I think that's better then. If it's just like, we'll just change it, make it canon, that's fine.
What is a mistake was the Justice Judge dude miscalculating the maths. Because 1,167 times 8 is 9,336, not 9,328. He basically gave him 8 hours off.
Brilliant. Brilliant. So, yeah, he's informed he killed all the crew and he's walked off into the Justice Zone, where it's physically impossible to commit a crime. We'll come back to that later.
Yes. But what I like about that is the fact that they're going through the, what have I done? I don't understand. I don't get it. And he rhymes it off and he goes, oh, that. It's like,
and I think it's an acknowledgement there that he does believe he's guilty because it's so casual. Oh, that.
Well, that's how the mind probe works. If you didn't believe, that's the fundamental flaw with how that works, is if somebody believed that they were entirely justified and had completely justified it in their own head that they weren't a murderer, then the mind probe wouldn't necessarily pick that up.
It does seem fundamentally flawed.
Oh, that. I also like the fact that he had that smarmy smile on his face when Lister gets excused.
Yeah.
And he's got that smiley look, and then the whole screen, the whole area turns red.
Yeah.
And it's like, and his face just drops. But another thing I wanted to bring up just before we move on, I know, because it is in this and it's in throughout the rest of the scene as well, and it's something that I was conscious of before I read this book, and when I was watching it earlier, I was like, I'm not quite sure that's really the best thing that they've ever done here. And then I've read it in the book, and it's actually interesting from this point of view, is that the actual set itself is it is awful. Basically, it's just horrible. It's like it's trying to do false perspectives with the way that they've drawn the lines on the back wall. You can tell it's on the wall, for example, and it's meant to give you an idea of infinity. And what this book says was basically that obviously they'd gone to a different location, and I know, Colin, you want to speak about that, but it says about going to the location, but then it also says that they wanted to have this, I think Ed Bye had seen this thing where you can do the false perspectives thing, probably from Alien, I would have thought. But, you've got the false perspective, but you need a ramp, and you need about 16 feet behind you, and then ramp it down, so the camera will look like it's going for infinity. Unfortunately, they didn't have the space or the money, so they just kind of drew it on a wall, and it looks shit.
That's why it's got the light right behind them.
And then they put the light on. Yeah, then they put the light on to try and to avoid that situation, and it looks absolutely awful.
But the one thing I've always thought about that scene is what's the design sort of painted on the floor and the ceiling. It looks like one of the cat's suits.
It does, yeah.
It looks like he's like the sort of zebra skin suit that he's wearing when he meets himself in Camille.
Yeah.
Hi, buddy.
Because it's the bit where he high fives himself, which is in the title sequence at the start.
Oh, did you look at the title sequence? Because Mark asked me that question on episode 1, and I skipped the intro, and I was like, and Mark was like, "What do you think of this? The season 4 new credits?" And I was like, "Oh shit,
don't know."
I don't know.
There's a Netflix skip intro button, so I pressed it.
Netflix skips the ends as well, and later on in the series, there's some really nice variations on the theme tune that it skips after 6 seconds. Fuck off, Netflix.
I was watching. What was it I was watching? I was watching a film, I think, the other day, which has an end credit sequence, and Netflix skipped the end sequence just as it was starting. No, it was the final episode of Man Down. That was it, where it had a to be continued type bit at the end, which obviously isn't ever continued. But yeah, we had to actually go all the way back into it and fast forward through the episode to get to the end.
Annoying. Anyway, we've bitched about Netflix. Disney Plus does it as well, so bollocks to them too. They're in Rimmer's cell, and Lister brings him a book and tells him they're going to appeal. Rimmer encourages Lister to try a crime and test the justice field, and he suggests arson, which Lister tries to set something on fire and ends up being on fire himself. So this is our first example of what happens when you're in the justice field. And Lister's like, could you not have had a less harsh crime? I'm on fire.
Well, the thing is as well, what seems to be weird about this, because normally Rimmer would take some sort of glee, but in this episode, it's kind of like he just says it matter of fact. It's like, oh, apparently if you do it, it gets try it. Yeah, and he doesn't. There's no like reaction. It's more like he's resigned to the fact he's going to be spending all this time in this world. He's not even that bothered. He's just thinking about something else. And it's like, just try it.
I do like that Lister gives him a really short-looking book. And he's like, oh, that'll pass some time.
It's a good gag.
Yeah. It goes back to the whole mumps thing, though, isn't it? Because it's like, Rimmer's like prepared a whole like 500 slides and doesn't go and see him when he's unwell, but has actually got something prepared for him.
Yeah.
And then Lister just comes back in and says, I brought you a book. There you go. And it instantly, it doesn't, I know it's just because of the whole book thing. It always reminds me of the time when he said, I need to read a book. When
I've never read a book.
I never read a book. That's maybe the one and only book. That's really, actually, it's quite nice of him to give him the one and only book.
Giving him his entire library.
So Crichton enters and tells Rimmer he's going to be his defence lawyer because he's innocent because of his own misguided sense of guilt. They end up in a courtroom and Crichton lays it on quite thick about how Rimmer's combination of ego and misguided guilt convicted himself when he's actually too incompetent to be anything other than innocent.
This is where I think Red Dwarf becomes the posse for me. This moment, this whole like talking him down, saying he's a git, the whole thing just feels like everything's formed now. That's Red Dwarf. That's the crew.
It's solidified into what it needs to be.
Yeah. It's how I envisioned Red Dwarf if I was to think back about the show. That moment, that's the moment. We've talked about the entire 4 seasons and how good things are and elements are coming together and stuff like this. But for me, this is like, it's polished off now. This is the moving forward. This is how you're going to get. Because Crichton, especially, the fact just how much he's going at him. I know he has to, but, this keeps recurring time and time again. This, for me, is the first time you really feel that.
Well, yes, he does. He objects to his own fucking defence counsel, which I think is brilliant.
This is like it's like a John Grisham courtroom drama, like the Pelican Brief or something like that. But it's like this was the first sort of thing I ever saw where it was like a court case where there was objection. And, as a kid, I'd never seen anything like that before. So anytime I ever see a courtroom drama, it's this episode
Objection
of Red
is
Dwarf
such a wonderful TV trope that idealises courtrooms. Yeah. And it's gone from Perry Mason in the early 80s all the way up to Phoenix Wright on the fucking Game Boy. It's such a trope that in the Marvel vs. Capcom game, when you play as Phoenix Wright, one of his special moves is to point and shout objection, and the word objection hits his opponent. And I don't think this was quite that tropey here. And I wonder how much it contributed to the whole massive culture of this objection thing being the idealization of courtrooms and courtroom dramas.
And I wonder, as a result, if anybody's ever actually used it when they've been in court because they saw it in Red Dwarf. Because I would.
Surely someone must have turned around and said, a man of such awesome stupidity, he even objects to his own defence counsel.
As much as I love objection, as much as I love Rimmer in this scene, the line that gets me every time, and I like uncontrollable, rib-painful laughter, is occupation. Pause, 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 boom. Every time, I instinctively go to grab my ribs because I know it's going to hurt how much I'm going to laugh at the delivery and just the one. It's just wonderful.
It's his thought process. It's like, because the pause is more him thinking, going,
Why?
It's just,
bum.
it's just wonderful. I haven't even watched it and I'm creased.
Also, Lister's tie in this particular scene is the most 1991 thing. It looks like the title sequence from Saved by the Bell.
It does. Shit a brick.
It's just 90s colourful patterns all over the place. It's amazing.
Justin Diamond, rest in peace.
Absolutely. He's also got his
yeah.
tie, and you know how like the cool kids at school did like a tiny little tie with a square at the top, and he's even done that, which is...
Yeah.
We were watching this at 11 or 12, 13, 14. I wasn't cool enough to do that with my tie, but I sure as hell got the reference. So anyway, Crichton is a very good lawyer, and Arnold Judas Rimmer is pardoned.
There's also a little bit that I do like in the bit where they're talking about what Rimmer's purpose was, where they talk about him refilling the vending machines with fun-sized crunchies. And I find that in these dark times with lockdown and everything, I find it heartening that in the future there will still be crunchies.
And fun size as well, because...
Well, no, fun size isn't as good. I'd rather they were king-size crunchies, but, you got to take what you can get.
Well, no, but fun size surely will still exist, because if they think about how big king size or duos are now, they're about the size of a normal size chocolate bar back then, aren't they, really? So fun size...
They'll be like the ones you get in Miniature Heroes.
Yeah, as long as crunchies still exist.
I fucking love crunchies.
I don't mind, it's all good.
They're second only to double-deckers in my chocolate bar top 10.
I was one of the first people ever to try a double-decker. My gran used to work for Cadbury's, and we used to occasionally get samples and stuff to try of new lines. And I believe, from what I've been told, that was one of the ones that I tried when I was about
bloody love a double-decker.
3 or 4.
I'm jealous that you got the first double-decker.
I think it was double-decker. I might be wrong and entirely different.
It could be a topic or something.
Fuck topic. Fuck topic.
Yeah, topics can fuck right.
I didn't like Fuse either. They were shit.
They were just the leftovers off the machine that were all scraped up. And then...
I know it's just like plain milk chocolate, but I miss Spirers.
Oh, they were...
Spirers are
they had a consistency that couldn't be ignored. Anyway, that's a bit of a tangent.
But before we move on, what I actually like from an Arnold Rimmer character position is that they talk about Z-Deck and they talk about how much he is dedicated to that job. The fact that he is so dedicated. I mean, obviously anyone outside of that will see him as a job's worth. Yeah. But as him as a character, that you can imagine him being that. You can imagine him being the one. It's like, I need to do this job to the best of my ability. His ability is not great, but the best of his ability. And it's an interesting character choice, that, because they are saying, as you say, the mind read and whatever is he believes he's done that because of how much responsibility he puts on himself. Yeah,
how self-important he believes he is.
Yeah, I think when it comes to actually being an episode that explores who and what Rimmer is, it's presented for laughs, but when you take a step back, you can see that even though it's kind of presented as a bad thing, you're right, his dedication is something that's kind of admirable.
I ain't going to do that with a job, though.
So they return to Starbug, and Rimmer says that Crichton was brilliant at twisting the facts. Unfortunately, the pod is open. They'd forgotten about it.
Something else we'd forgotten about.
Go on.
We had forgotten to talk about the location of Justice World, because we mentioned it really briefly earlier, where it was filmed in Sunbury Pump House? Yeah. It was filmed in Sunbury Pump House, which is in West London, sometimes known as Kempton Park, which another TV programme of the early 90s, which I used to watch fairly obsessively, was also filmed there. Games Master Series 2, where they were on the oil rig.
Good grief.
Oh, yeah.
That is the same scenery.
Good grief. I bloody love Games Master when I was a kid.
There's the bit with all the dials Dominic Diamond used to stand right in front of that making hilarious innuendos.
Good grief.
It's fairly fresh in my mind at the moment because there is a brilliant podcast called Under Consultation where they go through every episode of Games Master. They're on
amazing
season 3 at the moment, and it's one of my podcasts that I listen to every week as soon as it comes out. It is utterly fantastic and definitely worth a listen. But yeah, they mentioned obviously a fair bit that's where it was filmed, and then I saw that's where this was filmed because I always look up where the locations were. I was like, that rings a bell, and looked it up, and it is the same place. There was also, it was where the Scrumptious Sweet Factory is in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. But obviously that was I think that's an exterior shot.
Yeah, I can't remember that being in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, to be fair.
No, I've not seen it for a very long time.
No.
But yeah, Games Master and Justice World, the game's rig is the same place.
Grief.
But yeah, so they're back on, so Queeg shows up.
Well, I'm just going to say, can you imagine Patrick Moore being a version of Holly?
He's got a bit of a similar vibe, hasn't he?
Yeah.
With the fact that he's a floating electronic head.
It's true. Maybe there could be some kind of crazy crossover.
He looks a little bit more like a simulant version of Holly.
That's true. And
That's it. We're starting to write our own Red Dwarf episode.
He's as cantankerous as a simulant as well.
Well, yeah, true.
Can't get past level 4 in Mario. I will shoot you in the face.
So, yeah, it's not Barbara, by the way. It's the simulant.
It's
shit.
not.
And the simulant chases them back into the Justice World corridors.
But does simulants do smell of perfume? That's what he says, doesn't he? Cat says he smells perfume.
Yeah, but does Cat know what perfume smells like?
Well, that's true.
True.
Yeah.
I think he may have been smelling what he wanted to smell there. There's an absolutely...
He's made a miss-smelling.
There's an absolutely beautiful bit of physical comedy in this bit where the simulant shoots at Holly and she ducks.
Again, Hattie Hayridge gets like 2 minutes max an episode, but she makes it count.
I mean, the bazookoids themselves, no wonder they don't do any damage.
Yeah, because it didn't even put a dent in the screen.
Oh, shit, yeah. Yeah.
Just like, they say, simulants, they could take a blast. They could take a blast of a bazookoid. Well, obviously, if you're shooting a bazookoid literally within a metre of a TV screen and nothing happens.
Good point, well made.
I had not thought of that. That is an absolute fair point.
Yeah, so, shit, you're right. Anyway, the crew run away and the simulant follows, and he blasts the escort boots so he doesn't have to wear them, and he chases them into the Justice Zone. The crew are above him on the rigging, and this is what you were talking about earlier, Colin, where there's a huge moral conversation about shooting someone in the back when you know that they would kill you. And Rimmer is like, fucking shoot him. And Lister's like, can't do it. And I don't know. It's the whole would you kill baby Hitler thing. You can't know until you get to that situation.
I mean, when I've been in that situation, every time I have killed baby Hitler. It's 3 times it's happened. I don't know if it had happened a 4th time, but when I have time travelled and found baby Hitler...
But you keep getting it wrong then, because nothing changes.
That's the thing. There's like other people keep going further back in time and then giving him like a...
And shooting you in the back.
bulletproof baby grow and stuff, and it's like, for sake.
The negotiation begins with the simulant saying, look, I won't kill you if you give me the code so I can drive away in Starbug. Meet me and bring no weapons. I'm bringing no weapons. And Lister agrees to meet him. And I'm like, really?
They could have surely got back to Starbug and just fucking left him there.
Yeah.
So on the gangway, Lister faces the simulant and, have you got any weapons? I lied. So did I. But I lied twice, which I fucking love. I love that scene.
I didn't think of that.
But I lied twice. Again, it's another one with the pause and the timing that just... Brilliant. I don't know who this actor is. I didn't look him up, but the simulant guy's timing is wonderful in that.
I did look him up and didn't write it down, but he's not been in anything I've seen. It was all bit parts in various things. Yeah.
Nicholas Ball.
That's him.
Well, good timing, Nicholas Ball. I enjoyed you.
Yes.
The simulant shoots Lister, but the bullet hits the simulant. Lister coshes the simulant and nearly knocks himself out. The simulant throws a knife and the blade hits him. And it's at this point that Lister goes, huh.
He's probably helped. It probably helped him think of that by the person that is really obviously handing him the pipes.
So, before we talk about that, where did he get the fucking pipes from? Before we talk about that, I love how Lister is sort of bright, but a little bit slow. This isn't the first time that he does eventually get there, but not quite as quickly as a stereotypical hero in a real science fiction rather than a sitcom would have got there. And I really like the subtlety of that they do in Red Dwarf.
Yeah, they make it like any human being would react.
Yeah, not like Batman, where he's been running a gambit for the whole time that's going to pay off in the end. He's thinking on his feet and finally coming up with something after it not working for the first 8 times.
Yeah. And we've said before, I mean, on the reverse of, like, say, cancelling something, you know, it's when we had the bomb on the ship, you know, self-destruct, and it's like, cancel, because that's something very human. This is the opposite of that. This is like, what's happening? It's happened again. It's happened again. It's happened again.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on. Yeah.
I don't think I would be in this situation. Obviously, this is a ludicrous situation. I wouldn't, if I was in this situation, I don't think I would be kind of,
If you're in the justice world.
I don't think I would be kind of super science fiction, superhero leader guy. I think I'd probably be similar level of dumb to Lister.
Would you be like Cat with the spade?
Oh, wonderful. So, Lister clocks it. And then, did you say it was pipes? Because to me, I thought it was vases.
I think they're like ceramic pipes, they look like to me. But they could have been vases, but...
I thought they were vases, but then by you saying pipes, it's making me think about that now.
Pipes makes a little bit more sense of them being in that kind of environment. It does, but I prefer
it to be vases.
Yeah.
But for some reason, Lister has got an infinite supply of vase pipes that he hands to the simulant to crack over his head, and every time he hits him, he's doing more damage to himself. I know that's ludicrous, but it was funny as fuck, and I just don't care.
Which is all that matters.
Yeah. I mean, they were made of wax, and he still did get bruises from them. Oh, just like the things you go through for your art.
Perhaps that's why he's not been in that many other things. Perhaps he got, slightly brain damaged from being whacked over the head so
with many
times.
wax
He can't remember his lines anymore.
Things. And eventually the simulant strangles Lister and chokes himself to death. The cat arrives, clocks the simulant with a spade and says, "Better late than never!" and falls like a tree. And I don't care.
It's a beautiful bit of slapstick timing, the way he does it. The way
it's just one of the funniest things I've ever seen. And also, I don't care. I had an episode a few weeks ago where I didn't have a quotable draw, so I'm having 2 for this one. I'm claiming 2, because better late than never, I love. If I'm late for anything, better late than never. And I don't care. They're both so fucking brilliant that I'm having 2 this week. I'm having 2.
That's fair.
What a fucking great episode
the cat's
this is.
shit-eating grin when he falls back as well. It's just wonderful.
You can almost see the cartoon birds flying around the top of his head.
And the fall... I hope there was some kind of crash mat behind him, because it was pure. It was like a tree trunk. It was great.
I am glad they didn't put that in the remaster. Can you imagine them putting the Tweety Bird?
I don't know. I'd probably popped for that. Just better late than never. Wonderful. So they get in Starbug back to Red Dwarf. When they land, Lister has this massive rant about justice, this kind of super fast speech about free will and justice and whether or not you can have free will, etc. Blah, 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 blah. Falls down.
It's like a Jerry Springer speech, isn't it?
But twice as fast because they ran out of time. And he then falls down. Well, I initially put manhole in my notes, but service pipe falls in a fucking hole, and they close the door on him because he's been a bell end.
Vase hole?
A vase hole, yeah.
What do you call me?
A vase hole.
And that's the end of the episode, and you're absolutely right. What a fucking brilliant, brilliant, brilliant episode. An absolute favourite of mine, Justice.
The end scene. Colin, do you know anything about this end scene?
No, actually.
No. Okay, so apparently this scene was a last-minute addition because it was left because of Justice World was originally supposed to be on a planet, and the scene was filmed with the crew walking around a park.
Yes.
While Rimmer was incarcerated.
Oh, was this the bird?
So at which point Justice Zone litter birds retaliate by dropping a gooey bird dropping on his head. So that was the original ending, but obviously with not being on a planet anymore, it's in a space station. They couldn't do that end scene. So.
I knew it was a deleted scene. I just didn't know it was the end bit. Yeah,
there was the end. But what I find amazing is this is an end, and I know I've been going on about how many podcasts I've been doing recently, but and synchronicity is the word of the day apparently, because I've been talking about in an episode tomorrow for the X-Files about. Free will, and we're doing a Groundhog Day style episode, and this speech for something that's been put in the very last minute is a brilliant speech.
Yeah,
the fact that he's talking about reincarnation, he's talking about free will, he's spouting all the Star Trek crap. Basically that's what that's what it is. Yeah. It's like the end. It's like I've learned something today, kind of situation, isn't it? So yeah, and it's just the fact that and it's perfect because of like sort of saying things like good things happen to bad people, bad things happen to good people, and I'll fall down a vase hole. so I think it's just a great way of finishing. I think it's much better than what they were planning on doing in the first place.
Yeah, it works.
It's interesting that you said it's like Jerry Springer's final thought. I always think when there's something like this, it's like He-Man at the end of an episode. Yeah, He-Man's moral. So it was a bit He-Man's moral. Fuck Jerry Springer.
And Mask.
Mask did do it as well, didn't they?
Crusaders.
Working overtime.
Bloody hell.
Finding crime.
Right, so that's about it. Have you two got anything else you want to talk about other than to just gush about how fantastic this episode was?
I think we've done it all. It's great. Go and watch it if you haven't seen it for a while.
I think it's tight. I think it's brilliant. I think it's just a great season, and we are in prime Red Dwarf period now. I think it's great.
The golden age.
It's the golden age of Red Dwarf.
So that's about it for this week's episode. Before we go, Kurt, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me on that there internet on Twitter at rmuldrake. It's RMULDRAKE. Find me on there talking about Red Dwarf, about Star Trek, about everything, basically. X-Files, Millennium, the lot.
If it's nerdy, you chat about it, right?
Absolutely. So, yeah. So, just find me on Twitter. Next week I'll give you a full list. But today, can't be bothered. Muldrake, RMULDRAKE.
So you can find my other podcasts, We Dig Music and Free With This Month's Issue, on the We Made This network. So you can search them in your podcast app. You know how to do podcasts. You're listening to one. If you want to find us on Twitter, Free With This Month's Issue is on Twitter as This Month's Issue, and We Dig Music is on as We Dig Music PCast. We're also on Instagram, Facebook, that kind of thing. And if you want to find just me on my own talking bollocks, it's Mogwai Fear Satan on Twitter.
If you're looking for me, I'm at Mark Adams HC on both Twitter and Instagram. I also have many podcasts like Kurt. I will plug my most recent one, which by the time this airs will be halfway through its first series. Check out Ink Stories, which is my micro podcast about the stories behind the tattoos on people what I like. It's dead good. at Ink Stories Pod on Twitter and Instagram. And like Colin says, if you're listening to this on a podcast provider malarkey, use the same podcast provider malarkey and just do a search.
Yeah. What are you waiting for?
And give us a rating.
That too.
Oh, yeah, good point. Other podcasts say, give us 5-star reviews and shit. Please
like
do
and
that.
subscribe, please.
Yeah, all that shit. You know, most podcasts do the professional thing at the end. Imagine we did that and give us a nice review. Love you guys. XOXO. Right, anyway, thanks for listening. Until next time.
Oh, that.
Hello, everyone. This is Tony, Network Chief of We Made This. As you know, our podcast network brings together a brilliant assortment of talent who talk about all kinds of pop culture content, such as the episode you just listened to, or maybe you're just about to listen to. We're not going anywhere, but we'd love to keep the lights on for even longer if you're able to support our network on Patreon. For just £2 a month, you get your name in lights and the satisfaction of knowing you're helping us produce more great audio. And for £3 a month, you'll get your name in lights, but you'll also get access to an exclusive bi-monthly podcast from the We Made This talent pool on podcasting, pop culture, and, well, you tell us. We'll take your suggestions. For less than the price of a coffee per month, you can help keep We Made This going. Just head to patreon.com/We Made This. That's patreon.com/We Made This. And get the ball rolling. Now, back to your scheduled programming. Elsewhere on We Made This. Cerebral Jukebox.
Yeah, I suppose there's something quite freeing about not knowing the words. So even if they're super dark, you just don't know. So you can because you can get a lot of songs which have a really cheerful musical undertone, but the actual meaning is quite nasty. And you're like, ooh, this song is a bit much, really. But I suppose with songs that you don't know the actual meanings of, it just sort of remains it with its innocent musical intention. I mean, obviously, Feliz Navidad is going to be a happy song. It's a Christmas song.
Right in the childhood.
So, Fraser, have you heard of Round the Twist?
I have not, and the only reason I've done that Australian accent is because I think you mentioned it last time that it was an Australian show.
I did.
So that's all I've got.
So it's an Australian show from the early 90s.
It's not like Home and Away or Neighbours.
I mean, it has the same accents.
Oh, we can say the same actors.
There might be, I don't remember.
They just do the same three shows over
Wouldn't
and
it
over
be
again.
funny if Harold Bishop turned up?
I was going to say Chris Hemsworth or one of them.
Was Chris Hemsworth in Neighbours?
Yeah.
Was he?
I think Margot Robbie was as well.
Really? Kylie Minogue?
Yeah.
But the thing is, it will be Kylie Minogue era. It'll be Kylie Minogue, Jason Donovan, Stephen Dennis, Craig McLachlan, all of these.
The time is now. A Millennium podcast.
To watch Millennium. And again, this is
just to stress this, by the way, I was 18 at the time, so I'm just going to say that. Yeah, okay. So.
I know. And were you a Kiss fan, Kurt?
I was a rock fan. I don't think I was a Kiss fan, no.
Yeah, because this is exactly the situation that you're in, where you're talking about middle-aged men in suits in Hollywood who are trying to project what kids want from their entertainment and what will bring them in. It's the same logic that got you, for example, Coolio in the episode Or and Or of Space Above and Beyond, which is Fox desperately reaching into the darkness and trying to find something that would make kids watch it, because it's worth noting that Kiss were, I believe, in the middle of something close to a Kiss-Renaissance. Is that what we'll call it?
Check out all of these shows and more on the We Made This podcast network.
Shipwrecked and Comatose, a Red Dwarf podcast, was created and produced by Mark Adams and Kurt North. You can find us on Twitter at Red Dwarf Pod, and we are part of the We Made This podcast network, which can be found online at wemadethispod.com or on Twitter at We Made This Pod.